Australia will provide another $25 million in aid for Ukraine, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has announced. Key points: the extra funding takes Australia's aid to Ukraine to $116 million. The extra funding takes Australia's aid to Ukraine to $116 million. The package includes money for defensive military assistance, including radar systems. The package includes money for defensive military assistance, including radar systems. Australia will impose a 35% tariff on all Russian imports. Mr Morrison made the announcement in Parliament just ahead of Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to the House of Representatives. The government said the additional aid had been asked for by Mr Zelensky and would bring Australia's total assistance to Ukraine to $116 million. The $25 million is for defensive military assistance, including radar systems, as well as food and medical supplies. But the federal government said it would not give any more details, at the request of the Ukrainian government and other Western partners. Mr Morrison described Mr Zelensky as a lion of democracy and said Australia would continue to stand with Ukraine for its fight for survival. "Yes, you have our prayers, but you also have our weapons and our military aid," he said. "We stand with you, Mr. President, and we do not stand with the war criminal of Moscow." The announcement came only hours after the government revealed it would impose a 35% tariff on all imports from Russia and Belarus, as it ramps up economic sanctions in response to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The federal government has already imposed wide-ranging sanctions on more than 500 Russian individuals and entities, as well as banning Russian oil imports. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia was intent on imposing the maximum cost on Russia for its actions, and again called on Moscow to cease its unprovoked, unjust and illegal invasion of Ukraine. The latest round of sanctions will come into effect on April 25th, the same day the ban on Russian oil and other energy imports begins. The tariff will be in addition to the normal general duty rates on imports. Last week, Australia announced it would sanction Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, as well as a number of members of his family. The government said it made the move because of Mr. Lukashenko's close ties with, and ongoing support for, Mr. Putin. The federal government has also now used the so-called Magnitsky sanctions laws, which allow it to target individuals for egregious abuses of human rights. It has sanctioned 39 Russians accused of serious corruption and involvement in the of lawyer Sergei Magnitsky, who was the inspiration behind the now global sanctions framework.